welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Anna, and in this video we're going to be talking about one of my favorite things in the whole world, which is annotating books. And as you can tell, wait a minute, this is really heavy. I love annotating books, okay? You can tell, like, I just absolutely have so much fun doing this, and I really want to talk about it, just give, my 2 cents in how you can start annotating books if you don't do so, and why, it's so cool, why it's amazing when you annotate books. So why should you annotate books in the first place? So in my opinion, I understand that a lot of people think, that their books are sacred. They're sacred, you cannot write in them, you're going to ruin them if you do so, you can never go back, and those are all valid reasons. Of course they are. But the reason why I just absolutely love annotating books and why I think everyone should do that, it's because the book becomes so much more personal to you. It's just a connection that is unbreakable. I know that sounds so corny and so cheesy, but it's true because it's an experience. You are reading this book and you're having so many thoughts, so many feelings, and when you write them on the page, you will never forget about them. You will never forget how you felt reading this book for the first time, and it's just amazing that because whenever you reread that same book, you're just going to remember everything you felt in the first time. And it's such an amazing experience to do that. For example, I've reread the Mistborn trilogy, the entirety of it, and it was just so cool to see all of the annotations that I had previously, because maybe you changed your opinion, maybe you changed your mind, maybe you wouldn't even annotate that sentence if it was now. Or, for example, when you're rereading it, I find new things to annotate. And it's just really, like I said, it's just an experience unmatched. You really need to annotate books in order to understand this type of experience. It's just amazing. And of course, when you annotate books and when you're writing down, it means that you are really paying attention to what you're reading. So the story most likely is going to stay with you even more because of that. So I do understand only annotating favorite books. That's what I do personally. I only annotate favorite books. Now, how do you know a book is going to be a favorite? It is a little bit hard. Sometimes it takes 50, 100 pages to know, and most of the times I don't really annotate until that part. I only start annotating when I know I'm going to love this book regardless of the ending, regardless of what happens. This book is going to have a special place in my heart. So this is why I think everyone should try annotating their books. Like I said, it's such an amazing experience. It makes everything so much more personal, and you're going to remember the story much vividly. Now, if you never annotated, in your life, if you've never done this before, here's what I think you should start doing. This is just my opinion, okay? It's not a rule book. You can do whatever you want to. This is just my personal opinion. I think for the first level, you should just dog-ear the pages. I understand that some people, don't really want to ruin the book, but when you're going to write on it, underline it, just do everything, you're going to ruin the book. Like, it's just much worse than dog-earing the pages. So even if it's just like a little bit, just the tiniest bit in the corner of the book, you can absolutely do that. I think that is a better way for you to start doing it and for you to start being okay with damaging your book, because like I said, writing is much worse than a bent page, because sometimes we even buy the new books, they come with bent pages already and we just have to deal with them. Fun fact, I actually think having bent pages is worse than writing. Like, I don't know how that works. I don't know why, but it just does, okay? In my mind, it makes sense, because writing, I don't know, I think it could be that. I think it could be the fact that writing, I, purposely did that damage. But when it comes to damaged pages, because I don't do that and I don't inflict that damage, to me, it's just even worse. I don't know if that's the logical part, but it doesn't make sense, okay? So if you do want to start annotating, I think dog-earing your pages is going to be the best way to go. Imagine you really love a scene, you really love a quote, you love anything, just, the little corner of the book, and you're set to go. And for the second level, I think here is when post-its come into play, because here's the thing, post-its, they don't usually damage your book. Sometimes it has happened to me where I put the post-it note and then imagine, okay, you know what, I don't really like this positioning, I want to change it, and when I, peel it, some of the ink does come out sometimes, okay? Some of the ink from the letters does come out, and I think this is, worse damage than just dog-earing the pages. That's why this is level 2. But if there's anything specific that you do want to, annotate, then I think post-its is also the best way to go, because you're not writing the book, you're not damaging it that much, because most of the books that I do have, they're not damaged by post-its by any means. I think only Empire the Vampire did that to me. I don't know why. I think it was because of the amount of ink that it was used, because it does have a lot of illustrations. I don't know if it was that, I don't know, but that was the only book that got damaged because of that. But yeah, I think post-its are your best friend. Level 3, now here's where you start writing, my friends. Pencil. Pencil will always be your best friend, and very lightly, okay? Just underline the sentences very lightly. Just write on the sidelines what you want to do. Just write on the sidelines what you think about that certain scenario, that certain situation, your reflections, your feelings, just your reactions, just literally anything. Just write it in pencil, because obviously easy to erase. Imagine you annotate a book and then 10 years later or 5 years later, you're like, you know what? This is not really for me. It wasn't really for me. I'm over this book. Then you just literally can erase everything and you can donate it freely. You don't have to worry about it being damaged or not. So if you do want to, you're kind of like, okay, I'm comfortable with dog-earing the pages, comfortable with using post-it notes. So let us go and write in our books. Pencil, okay? Pencil is going to be your best friend. Very lightly, okay? Do not write very harshly because then it's going to be very hard to erase. But if you do, a very light touch with your wrist, it's going to work wonders. And let us imagine now you are completely ready. You're like, you know what? Writing in my books is not so bad. I actually really, really like it. I wish some of these books, or some of these annotations were permanent because, with pencil, it can smudge and it can get difficult to read. So I think this is when you can start actually writing in your books. And if you want to write, you can write in a very simple way. And what I mean is, for example, get a pen. Obviously, do not smudge. Okay, a pen that doesn't smudge, otherwise it's just going to be a giant mess. But, just write very short sentences. You don't need to write like a whole paragraph in the beginning. Just start by writing, very short sentences, very short reflections, things like that. So you don't feel that uncomfortable. And even when you go and, for example, donate the book, it's not that bad. The damage is not horrible. And you can still donate the book. It just has like a couple of sentences here and there. And finally, when you're absolutely comfortable with annotating, just go the whole way, okay? Just go the whole way. You can write paragraphs upon paragraphs. And obviously, you don't even have to write in the book. And I forgot this. So, let's just pretend this. Let's just rewind a little bit. Before you even start writing in pen, I think, or even in pencil, you can also use post-it notes. I don't know why I forgot about the post-it notes. God damn it. But post-it notes, just glue a post-it note in your notebook and just write whatever you want. You can do that. And then you can try pencil, and then you can try pen, and then you can try extra pen, which is the one I'm currently now. I'm just so silly. See, this is why even planning my videos, it's a disaster, okay? It's really a disaster because I literally forget things that I have to talk about. So I'm really sorry if this is out of order. Okay, I tried my very best. I promise you I tried my best. But if you're comfortable writing, write everything, and you can write with everything. And if you want to use highlighters, go for it. I personally don't use highlighters. I don't know why. I just don't like it. I don't need to feel, I think it's because I'm so traumatized by school and by college that I don't want this to feel, like some schoolwork or anything else. So what I do is I just underline with my pen and I just write whatever I want to write on the sidelines, glue a post-it note, and that's it. Like, that's literally what I do. But if you do want to use highlighters, go for it. Have it color-coded, whatever the hell you want. You can totally use it because now you're comfortable. Now you're comfortable in writing in your books, damaging them in the worst way possible, because it's one of the most amazing feelings that you can have. It's just the freedom, the freedom of and getting rid of the shackles that books are sacred things. They are not sacred things, people. They are not sacred. They are not, religious objects that you need to hold in this altar untouched forever. No, they're not. They are supposed to be read. They are supposed to be used. Obviously, don't destroy them just because, but they are meant to do this. They are meant to look like someone has read them. If the spine is broken, that's fine. If you've written in them, that's completely fine. The fact that you've done all of that, it just, to me, at least, it shows that you use the books, that you love that book enough, and that you really enjoyed reading it, and that you had an amazing experience. Of course, it can also be the opposite, and you hated the book to the point where you just decided to break the spine. That is also completely plausible. But 9 out of 10 times, I do believe a broken spine and some writing in the book means that you absolutely loved the book. So now you're completely comfortable with annotating. So here's how I personally annotate my books. I always use a system. I need a system. I love being organized, especially for fantasy. So the system that I do use conveys of 5 colors, which are literally the 5 basic post-it colors that you can find anywhere, which is green, orange, yellow, pink, and blue. Like, these 5 colors, this is what I use. I don't use anything fancy at all. I buy the cheapest post-its because everything is expensive now. Okay, even post-its. I see you, okay? When I go shopping, why are they almost €3? Like, what do you mean? A packet is almost 3 anyways. It's just insane out there. But this is the color system that I do use, and I have an element for everything. I do use this system more for fantasy books because I'm mostly a fantasy reader, but they can work for other books, okay? So do not worry, but this is a system that I use. So the green color comes for world building. Now, like I said, this is very much fantasy coded. So when I'm looking for world building, what I'm looking for in this element is just anything that, it's not like anything that relates to the world building. No, what I'm looking for is the rules. For example, how does this world work? How does the magic system work? How do these characters live? What is the society like? What is the culture like? Just anything that gives me clues, explanations, anything I will annotate because I'm like, okay, I need to remember this for the future. This is going to be important to understand something that is coming up. I know this is going to be important. Oh my God, like this could be foreshadowing for something. Or simply just, this is really cool. I love this element of the world. I love this magic system. criticism. Oh wow, like these characters can do this. How amazing. Just literally anything. It could be, taking notes, it could be reflections, it could be anything that you're feeling. And this obviously goes for all of the rest of the elements that I'm going to talk about. But world building, basically, this is just what I'm looking for. For example, in the Mistborn saga, there's one part where I don't know if it's Vin, I don't know who it is, or Seist. I think it's Seist. Seist finds the place where the Inquisitors live. And he gets there and he's so surprised because the place is, covered in metal. It's made of metal. Everything is just very similar to how the Inquisitors are in terms of personality. They're very serious, they're very practical people. So in that place, you don't have furniture, you barely have any, furniture whatsoever. Like, everything is just, like I said, everything is just made of metal because that's how they see. Everything is just sharp edges because they are also made of sharp edges. So everything just matched so perfectly, and everything just really represented what the Inquisitors were and how dangerous they were. And I just loved that. Like, I just absolutely loved the fact that where they all lived truly represented what they were as people. They're not really people, but kind of people. And that's one example where I just underlined the entire paragraph and I was like, this is amazing. Like, I just absolutely love this. I love how Brandon Sanderson conveyed, this building, how he connected this building to the people that live here. It was just, I loved it. It was just insane. Or, for example, I underlined all of the rules about Mistborns, all the rules about Allomancy, because I knew I was going to need to remember all of those things, because I was like, okay, this metal does this metal does that. Here's rule number one when it comes to, pushing metals, pulling metals, everything. I just underlined everything literally. So this is what I use the color green for, and this is what I mean when I say I underline everything that has to do with the world building. And then we have the color orange, and this is what I use for the story. Now, just like the world building, here when I'm talking about the story, I'm talking about everything, that is, of course I start with the plot twist, okay? The plot twist, that is the one thing that I do underline, because I'm shook. Like, I'm shook most of the time, especially here with the Mistborn saga. I was shook all of the time. I was bamboozled. My jaw was on the floor. I was always just constantly, like, staring at my page and just, blinking nonstop because I just could not believe what the hell I was reading. And I absolutely love that. I love recording all of my reactions, everything that I say, which is mostly like, I cannot believe this. No, like literally this, okay? And this is what I also want to say. Your reflections don't have to be, top tier intellectualism, oh my god, I'm intellectual, I'm into dark academia. They don't have to be. They can be silly things like me just putting on a page, okay? Because that was my reaction. And still to this day, I absolutely love doing this, okay? So plot twist is one of the things that, of course, I am looking for when it comes to the story. But what I'm also looking for is subtle moments of like, okay, this just happened. How is this character going to deal with this? It's just things, consequences, actions, everything that can affect the characters in such, in multiple ways. Or, for example, when it comes to the pacing, I'm like, okay, the pacing is not really, that well done. I think it's too fast, too slow, or I really do like this pacing. I like what the author did with the story. I love how the rhythm of the story is going. Just literally analyzing the story, okay? And now with my, me studying fantasy, I can also add, okay, this plot structure actually works in this story. This is where the initial incident is. This is what the rising action is. This is plot point 1, plot point 2, midpoint check, climax, just all of those things. So now it's going to be actually a lot more fun annotating books using my knowledge, okay, that I have up here in my brain. But yeah, so the story, everything is just very general. There are so many possibilities when it comes to the story, but this is what I usually use it for. And then we have the color pink, which is the color that I use the most. I never have pink post-it notes, and that is because it's about characters. And when it comes to characters, I just love analyzing them. I love analyzing everything that they do, everything that they say. Just literally anything, okay? Anything. And this is why I never have, the pink post-it notes. Because characters are just so interesting. And when it comes to characters, I'm looking for, their character development, their arc, their progress, like anything, if they're growing as people, if they're not growing as people, if they're stagnant, if they are doing something, or they are saying something new, that's what I'm mainly analyzing when it comes to characters. It is mainly, their arc as people, as a person, because when you write a book, the character has to, go through some sort of journey. If the character doesn't grow, then you don't really, I don't want to say you don't really have a book, but the book is not going to be as good as it could have been, because characters need to grow. We need to feel the growth with our characters, and that's what I'm looking for whenever I'm, underlining anything that indicates that a character is growing. So, for example, Vin, we're trying to find who she is as a person, because she starts as being very pragmatic, very, suspicious of everybody, and then she turns to someone that, is not really pragmatic. She's not really a tomboy anymore. She likes dresses, she likes makeup, she sees the fun in that. And she also learns how to trust her people. She learns how to trust Kelsier's band, she learns how to trust Ellen, and it's just something so beautiful to see. Just this confidence of her blossoming is just amazing. I absolutely love that. But of course, I'm also underlining moments that are just so silly, like so silly. And one of them, I will never get over this, is Breezy's girlfriend literally calling him Breezy. She literally called him Breezy in front of all of his friends, and he was mortified. He was mortified and humiliated. He was like, please do not call me that. Please do not call me that in front of my peers. You know what? Like, they do not respect me anymore. Like, I lost all of my respect. Like, my respect is on the ground. There is no way I can get that back, and obviously, he doesn't, okay? We are all going to mock him until we die, including me, okay? Because it was just such a funny moment. So yeah, I'm also obviously, you know, underlining funny moments, silly moments, goofy moments that they have, because also, those are the most fun. For example, Vin also telling Ellen, like, aren't you, like, really old? And he's like, I'm not that old. I'm 21. And she's like, that's old. Like, that's really old. And he's like, no, it's not. Like, you're 16. Like, I'm not that old. Why are you looking at me like I'm an old man? And she also thought Kelsier was really, really old. Like, I think he's close to 40 or 35, 40. So it's not that old, but she's looking at Kelsier like he's, you know, 1 foot into that grave, okay? And it was just so funny to see that interaction. But of course, I'm also looking for character dynamics. You know, how do relationships work between these characters? You know, what is their dynamic? Like, do they like each other? Do they not like each other? Do they work well in teams? Do they not? I just absolutely love analyzing anything and everything. And that is why these post-it notes do not last anything. And then we have the color yellow, and the color yellow, I use it for quotes or moments of reflections that the characters have, or the narrator, the author themselves. Like, I do not care. It's just quotes that really touch my heart. So there's not much, you know, to explain here. It's just really, like I said, moments that really touch my heart, that are wholesome, that are going to stay with me forever. And I have so many of them in the Stormlight Archive. I think that is the best one for quotes. You do have funny quotes, okay? I also underline funny quotes, not just the quotes that are philosophical, life-changing, you know, changing my brain chemistry. I also have funny quotes, which obviously is honor is dead, but I'll see what I can do. Of course, like, that's such an iconic quote. And I also have a quote that is like, and for Baboon. You also know where that is from. If you've read Words of Radiance, you do know who says that. And to me, it was just such an iconic moment. I don't know why it was so funny. But yeah, basically, I just use this for quotes. And lastly, we have the color blue. And this color blue is a little bit hard for other genres other than fantasy, thriller, or mystery, because this is theories, okay? So these are the clues that you're going to find throughout the book. These are the clues that are going to help you understand what the hell is going on, you know, what is coming next, what are the possibilities for the plot twist, just literally theories. You are building theories. I'm very bad at this, okay? I am actually very, very bad at building theories. I usually use this post-it when I'm doing a reread, because I know what happened, so I'm like, oh my god, this was in front of me. Like, this was in front of my face the whole time. How couldn't I see it for the first time? You know, like, that's literally me. I think the only plot twist that I guess, for example, for the Mistborns, is how the Colossus was made. And I was like, you know what? I have a feeling I know how they're made, and I do not like it. So I was underlining every single clue that they had, which is basically them saying, I'm human. You know, they said I'm human all the time. So I was like, you know what? They might actually be, you know, and I was right, okay? I know it's a spoiler, but it's been like 20 years since it came out, so I'm not, you know, it's been 20 years, okay? You've had time to read Mistborn, okay? So yes, they are human. That was, I think, the only plot twist that I guessed. The rest, I had to reread it to find out, and I found so many clues. I was like, oh my god, like, I'm so blind, like, I don't know how I didn't see anything, but unfortunately, yeah, like, I'm very bad at creating theories, you know, I do have, and I can identify foreshadowing, you know, I can do that, and I do underline that in blue, but theories, I cannot do it, because I'm like, okay, this is important, but I cannot, like, build a theory from that. I don't know why I cannot do it, I just cannot do it, okay? Like, I wish I was good at doing it, but I'm not, okay, people, like, I really, really am not, which is so sad, but yeah, this is what I use the color blue for. So this is the system that I literally use for any single book. And of course, like I said, this does work a little bit better for fantasy books because I am, you know, mainly a fantasy reader. But you can do this even with classic books. I did this, for example, with The Count of Monte Cristo. You know, when it comes to the world building, just try and evaluate and see if the world that the story is set in is, you know, well constructed. It sounds realistic. It sounds plausible. You know, it makes sense. Just make sure that's what's happening. For example, in The Count of Monte Cristo, you know, it's set in Paris in the 1800s. So it's in the 19th century, you know, during the Napoleonic Wars, my God, that was a mouthful. The Napoleonic Wars. So I did, a little bit of digging. I'm not a historian, okay, but I did a little bit of digging, and I was like, you know what? It does sound plausible that the world is well constructed, so I do have no quarrels with that. So like I said, you can use this system for other books, but of course it works so much better with fantasy, especially the world building, because you do have the magic system, which makes it so much more fun. So if you do want to use the system, be free, you can use the system. This system, actually, it was me and my boyfriend that created it, which means that it was my boyfriend, okay? He did most of the work, okay? But yeah, I really love the system. It works so well for me. I feel so organized. I know what I'm doing. I know what I want to annotate, what I want to see, what I don't want to annotate. It just, keeps me grounded. Like, I love being organized. That is something that I just love. I love making, tiny lists and all that kind of stuff. So this was actually very fun. And like I said, if you do want to use it, you can use this. And this is all I have for you guys today. I do hope that you loved this video. And I do hope that you get out of this that you can actually annotate. It's not wrong to write in your books. It's not a crime. It's not a sin. Please write in your books. Please annotate. It is so much fun. I'm telling you, it is one of the most fun things in the entire world. You can have so many methods, like I said. You can start in so many levels. Start little by little, because you're going to get more and more comfortable with annotating. I promise you. It's not a crime. It is amazing. It creates so much more of an actual emotional connection. Everything is just so much more personal. And you can use my system, okay? Feel free to use my system if you don't really know, oh my God, I want to annotate, but I don't know how, I don't really have a system. You can use my system, okay? Of course I am biased, this was a system that I did create, so of course I'm going to say this is amazing, but it is, okay? If you don't really know what you want to do and you want to be organized, you can start by using my system, and then you can just evolve and do something that works best for you. Of course, this is not going to work for everyone, but I do really hope you enjoyed this video, and please subscribe and like this video, because it does help my channel out a lot. It gives me, a lot of validation and motivation to continue filming these videos for you guys, and I will see you guys on my next video. Bye!